Liz, congrats on the win. First Bellator victory under your belt. How do you feel?
I feel good. You know, I came out tonight and I said to myself it wasn't going to be like other fights. This is a new chapter. I need to get a strong finish. There are a few opportunities, like I felt her ankle pop and I thought for sure I saw the hand raise, she's going to tap. And I just got so stuck on it instead of scrambling to a different position. I know it cost me that second round staying in that position, but in the third round I came out, listened to my corners, and made sure that I finished that fight.
And were you surprised at how tough she was? You know, she had her, I don't want to say her moments, but you know, she was hanging in there with you, and she did have some success. So were you surprised at the challenges that she presented?
No, not at all. I knew that that's exactly how she was going to come out. You know, we studied tape on her, and she wasn't a slouch, and I said that from the beginning, this is another veteran. And certainly she was a lot heavier than I'd anticipated, and that definitely played a role when competing against her.
Talk to me about that. Was that frustrating at all for you to have an opponent come in and you make the weight and then they come in so much over?
Yeah, absolutely. My corners and I were talking about, we all believe that if you miss weight, automatically 20% of your purse goes to your opponent, and then it should be that every pound after that is a point off the fight. So if it does, because you're already in a deficit, as a person that took the time to cut the weight, that did all the training, did everything right, you're in a deficit and it's going to cost you a fight potentially. That's not fair. So I believe that every pound over is a point. So that really encouraged fighters to make weight every single time and to be professionals like they're supposed to.
You've been through so much in your career, major main events and all that kind of stuff. Are there nerves going into a fight like this? You know, your debut fight, major free agent, and if there aren't nerves going into the fight, was there nerves in the third round when it was close and you're like, shit, I can't lose this debut?
You know, there's always nerves. Certainly over the years, the degree at which the adrenaline and the nerves happen has definitely changed. But the day of, I'm trying to spend it, the later in the evening that it goes, the longer that I'm sitting there thinking about the fight, thinking about the things I could do correctly or incorrectly, and I start picking myself apart. You know, I'd love to have fights earlier. I know obviously that can't happen. But yeah, it doesn't matter what point in my career. It's definitely hard to sit there and you just have to deal with your own thoughts going into it.
Now, you mentioned Alima and a fight with Alima like McFarlane. Everybody probably wants that fight. That's a fight that makes a lot of sense, but you also talked about you're fine with working your way up. Yesterday, Scott Coker mentioned the idea he would like a women's flyweight Grand Prix. Now, that seems like a perfect way to work your way up and get the title. Is that something, if you're not in a title shot next, you hope that Bellator does and you'd love to be a part of?
Yeah, I think that a Grand Prix would be amazing. You know, all of us fight for the opportunity to be the contender. Alima gets to sit on the sidelines, drink some Budweiser, watch it all go down, and get to see and experience every single fighter and know who she's getting into. I think that's amazing, and I'd love to do something like that.
Congratulations on the win, Liz.
Thank you.
I gotta ask, in the first round, were you trying to attempt a twister? Because it looks like you were trying that because you had the leg lock, and that's usually a sign someone's going for a twister.
You know, absolutely. It's one of those things I've been talking about. You know, I've been embarrassed about my own performance as 10th Planet representative. I've wanted to show that I do 10th Planet, I want to go out there strong finish, and I want to get something from the truck, whether that was a banana split, a crotch ripper, whether it was a twister, whatever opportunity was going to give me, I wanted to do it from the truck. And so I was definitely hunting for that.
And I'm just curious to know, are you sticking with 125 for the future of your career? Any talk about going back up to 135? Yeah, just talk about that.
I mean, if Bellator introduced a 135, I would love the opportunity to have a belt there at 135 and go back up. I do feel really good at 125. I feel like that's a good weight for me. But the opportunity to hold a belt in 2 divisions is really appealing, and 145 is way too big for me.